Hey everybody, welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Michael Noland, and guess what, folks? The Emperor. He's out and about again, and the dude is once again butt naked. This whole subject was broached on a sister channel, Rachel's Ghost, this morning. If you haven't seen her channel, you ought to check her out, folks. She streams from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on the West Coast. And several of the commenters there said, yeah, well, you know, you take it too seriously as far as these new inductees not totally being rock and roll. Everybody kind of knows that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is really just the Pop Music Hall of Fame these days. And it's really nothing more than just a non-issue, and I thoroughly disagree with that point of view. You see, if that was true, just rename the damn thing. I swear to God, I'll shut up and I'll never make another video on that award show ever again. But you see, they're still calling the thing the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, I just recently did a video on how the voting was going for this year, 2023, right? And I'll put that video up here in my description box, folks. But in that video, we not only discussed a plethora of rock bands that have not made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but we also reported on who was doing the best in voting and on and on and on. And the only conclusion that you can come up with these results that we're going to talk about today and the fan voting is that the fan voting doesn't count, folks. All right, so in order to clarify everything here, I'm going to go ahead and read off 2023's nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Those nominees are Kate Bush, Sheryl Crow, Missy Elliott, George Michael, Willie Nelson, Rage Against the Machine, and the Spinners. All right? Now, that's very interesting, isn't it? Missy Elliott, at last count, was second to last in fan voting. The Spinners weren't too much further up on that list. Sheryl Crow was just one or two spots too low to make the inductee list that they came up with. Of course, George Michael, he was at the head of the list, but where's number 2, Cyndi Lauper? She's not on this list. But Missy Elliott is. Now, I want it clear, I'm not cutting down any artist on this list. To make such a list, they must be at the top of their game one way or another. I'm talking about them being on this list for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. As I've discussed in past videos, I don't see Missy Elliott, nor do I see Willie Nelson, even though I'm a Willie Nelson fan, as appropriate names, and they should never have been even considered for this list. And of course, everybody's sweetheart, George Michael, shouldn't be on this list either. Let's talk about the Spinners for a moment. First of all, a great act. I love the Spinners. And you know what? They were out at a time that rock and roll, pop, country, blues, R&B, all of it was playing footsies with each other. And there was a rock and roll feel to the Spinners. I have no problems with them being on this list, mainly because a lot of early nominees, when they first started this thing, got on for those exact reasons. That's a battle I'm not even going to begin to fight anymore. In my very last video, who was I discussing? Gordon Lightfoot, all right? He's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and yet in that video, I clearly identify him as one of the true masters of acoustic rock from the late 60s and throughout the 70s. By the very same type of thinking that brings the Spinners onto this list, Gordon Lightfoot has been ripped off, and really, he's been ripped off in a critical year. Which brings me to one of my least favorite rock bands on the planet, Rage Against the Machine. Now, first of all, as musicians, these guys are quite interesting. Their time signatures, their offbeats, how they deliver all with traditional rock instruments is quite clever. But then the lead singer opens his mouth and spoils it for me. Now, I don't have any problem with them being on this list. I would consider them a rap rock band. Now, I'm not talking myself into a corner here, because you would think that if I see them as valid, why can't we bring in rap artists? Just like we brought in the Spinners. Rage Against the Machine is a rock band, and they're heavily influenced by rap. Why can't rap artists be considered for this list? And I'll tell you why. You see, when the Spinners were around, they influenced rock and was influenced back by rock. All right? There was a certain amount of homogenization that happened at a critical time in the history of rock. But nowadays, especially in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all bets are off. You could be Perry Como and make this list. That is, if Perry Como was ever considered somebody politically correct enough to make the list. And you know what? That's part of the problem. We've discussed who makes up the nominating committee. They come from rap and hip-hop magazines. These are editors from another genre, and they actually have power. More power than any of you voters who voted on this list to begin with. Why do they even bother to take a fan vote? Now, this is an okay year for women in rock. At least we get the wonderful Kate Bush and the magnificent Sheryl Crow. I have no trouble with these inductees at all. They are well-deserved nominations. I am a big fan of both of these ladies. And I've got to say, deep in my heart, good for Willie, I guess, you know. I mean, the man's 90, he's still out there, you know, touring his ass off and touring with rockers. I don't know. Maybe I'm not so upset about him after all. But the rest of these guys are more roll than rock, and that includes Rage Against the Machine, especially when you consider the acts that have been ignored. All right, now if you enjoyed tonight's video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. That helps the channel on channel growth. And if you're one of my viewers that haven't quite subscribed yet, I just want to remind you, it's easy. All you have to do, here it comes, is hit that subscribe to the tribe button, then tap that top bell notification, and you'll be notified of all of my future videos. All right, I'm Michael Noland. This is The Bottom Line, or at least as I see it. And together, folks, especially in those comment sections, we are the tribe, and I'll see you in my next video.